welcome to Under the Influence. This is a show about storytelling and messages, not alcoholic beverages. I am your host, Aquan Robinson, and this is our show. First off, I want to make sure that you like, share, follow us on all social media platforms, Under the Influence Live. We're on Facebook, and we are on YouTube. We're taking questions for live as we go on, so if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and we will get them out to our illustrious guest who is sitting to the left of me, our very special guest who brought along a live studio audience with us all the way from Indianapolis, Indiana. She is a artist, entrepreneur, storyteller, activist, and just an all-around good sister soldier. Give it up, everybody, for the wonderful Michelle Browder. Clap. Clap, 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 clap. What's going on, sister?
Not much, brother. This is cool.
Hey, we are excited to have you. You know, you have been featured in many publications. Essence magazine, New York Times, National Geographic, Montgomery Advertiser. We're just happy to have you, and we're happy to have you here doing stuff locally in our wonderful community, in the beloved community. So thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you.
So again, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. So everybody might not know your backstory, so just tell us a little bit about your backstory, and then we're gonna get on to the good stuff.
The backstory as it relates to the tour?
Well, just you in general. Now, even going back to your organization, not just More Than Tours, but I Am More Than, what you're doing with the children, and even going back, what brought you to Montgomery?
Yeah, well, so what brought me to Montgomery was my parents who have an organization here, and they called me. I'm happy in Atlanta now.
Right.
And height of the boom. You know what I'm talking about? Back when it was Black Mecca.
Yeah.
And so happy over there doing my thing. Parents called up my mom. Now you know mamas. When mama called, you gotta go.
Yeah.
So she was like, we need you to come home. And I'm like, you need to go pray, because I am not going home. I'm not coming to Alabama. I don't like Alabama. You got 5 other children. How come you can't call them? So I just decided to, honor my mother and father, and I came home and started working with some young people here, and it just kind of evolved into where we are today. So
awesome, wonderful. So let's talk about More Than Tours, which in itself speaks for itself. It's not just tours. I've been on it. I call it an experience. Would you agree with that statement?
I would. Would y'all agree? Y'all getting part of the background over there. Yeah.
A holistic experience, right? So,
right.
What got you into wanting to create and curate this experience in Montgomery?
Well, first of all, A.G. Gaston says, A.G. Gaston, which was a millionaire out of Birmingham, Alabama, who started, his own business. He said, if you see a need, fulfill it.
Okay.
Right? So there was a need here to do tours. There was maybe a couple of people that were doing tours, but really not on the magnitude in which we're doing it. So I said, okay, there's a need to do tours here. I tried to leave Montgomery, and that didn't work out. So I just decided to stay and started, doing More Than Tours. But really, it was to fund our youth organization, which is called I Am More Than. I believe in, social businesses. I believe that you should own your own. And so I started doing the tours as a way to help fund what we're doing with kids here. And it's been a blessing.
Wonderful.
It was at the right time, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah.
And so in your experience that you create and cultivate, you really highlight some of the lesser known stories in our community.
Right.
So where did you first learn about those stories and that history that we don't really teach in our public school system?
Well, I'm a lover of history. So when you love history and when you want more of it, so growing up in Verbena, Alabama, which is like 45 minutes from here, we didn't have the history. They weren't teaching us Black history or just history as it relates to African Americans. So when I went to Atlanta, I started really seeking out, who am I, where, our roots and everything. And from there, that's how it kind of started. But then when you read about Rosa Parks, or when you hear about Rosa Parks, it's always, oh, she was this little middle-aged woman that is so tired from sitting on the bus. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. She was a Garveyite, you know, the Marcus Garvey. The woman was a bad chick. But, you know, so that's what I wanted to highlight. I wanted to highlight not just Martin Luther King Jr., but people like Vernon Johns, who was the pastor before Martin Luther King Jr.
Much more revolutionary.
Absolutely.
If you dig into it. Right.
Absolutely. And so there's so many people here in Montgomery that we don't talk about. The gentleman who started DuPont, who worked for, what is his name? Help me. It's a gentleman who was here at Alabama State University, went on to be like this master chemist. I see his face right now. I cannot call his name. You know what I'm talking about. And so, yeah, so it's just highlighting people that have made great contributions from Alabama that we don't talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we're dealing with COVID-19.
Yes.
So, how have you been navigating COVID-19?
Virtual tours. So, what black people, what we're good at is taking what the master gives us. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, during slavery, when slaves didn't have enough to eat, or the enslaved, they would take the scrapple from what was left and make hog head cheese or pig feet or pig head. So I just took what was left of COVID and turned it into a tour. You know, we give tours now all over the country. All you gotta do is log on, hit that little button where you pay for it, and so it's been a blessing for me.
What has the response been from that? Because, you know, like you said, we've traditionally and historically have done more with less.
Yes.
Since we have been in this country, what has the reception been from our community in response to that?
Well, can I be honest? I gotta be honest. So, like 95% of my tours are white folks from around the country. So, but we also started a farm. And the farm has been more so for mental health for our community, for, you know, people that are suffering from COVID, who just need to get out and stretch their legs, or maybe they just need to just breathe without the mask. So we started a little horse farm, and that has been a blessing. You know, yeah. So you can come out. Kalandri was riding, and he looked kind of scared.
Barely riding, or
he was like this.
Come on, man. You know, you got to. Hey, producer.
Kalandri,
get on your game, man.
Little horse.
Buffalo Soldier.
I did my best.
Black cowboy. That's funny. That's funny. So, talking about mental health, obviously we have been dealing with COVID, and also coupled in this time of COVID, we've been seeing some social unrest, some things we've been continuing to talk about. How has that impacted you?
I was depressed. I'm like most folks. It was like, you know, because I stayed in Montgomery for my business, which was more than tours, and then to not do tours at all, it was like either I stay here and die, or I sink into a real deep dark depression. So, so we're just good at surviving. Right. You know, and so, but then the whole George Floyd thing happened, so you're stuck at home, you can't go out, so you have to look at this every day. Right. And it became bad for me. Sure. You know what I'm saying? So I just thought, I shut down. I stopped talking. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to discuss anything. And then a friend called. And she was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm not doing it. You know, I'm the black sheep of Montgomery. Nobody wants to," you know, every time you say something, here she go again. So I just said, you know what? Y'all go ahead and do whatever. And then she said, "We'll support it, whatever it is." So I'm like, Black Lives Matter.
So that gives us a segue into what everybody really wants to talk about. Right. The mind behind the artwork at Court Square, around the fountain. What was the thought process behind that?
The thought process was, why would you put Black Lives Matter in the street when we are here in the center, in the heart of the cradle of the Confederacy, in the heart of where Montgomery, Alabama was at the top of, you know, the African enslavement in the Union. So why would you not put it around the fountain where they bought, sold, and traded in the heart of the city? And so, you know, again, I shopped it, I pitched it to a couple of people, Kalanji, 21 Dreams, Kevin King, and the King's Canvas, and they were like, we're on board, let's go.
Yep. So
the mayor, at the last minute, said okay, but he said okay. So here we are. So the design I had, to be honest with you, I've always wanted to do something kind of like hijack the square. Because we live in the South where you have Jefferson Davis and James Marion Sims, that's in everyone's picture. If you visit here and you take a picture of the Capitol, it's there. So why not have something and provoke more thought about Africans' roles in terms of building Montgomery, Alabama, than at the square.
Yeah, awesome. So what's next on your plate as far as projects in continuation with that with the artwork downtown?
Okay, so now we believe in taking. Oh no, sweetheart, the T-shirt underneath the see the T-shirt underneath. So had a meeting with our colleagues, right, our friends, Kevin King, Kalanji, 21 Dreams, Milton Madison, and we was like, why would we allow this great time in our city to go? So what we decided to do is we created a T-shirt. You see that right there? You see that?
Yeah.
So had I not had enough money to fund the idea, if we had waited around, we would not have gotten support financially. So the idea now is to sell limited edition T-shirts, cups, mugs, whatever, and have a fund for Black creatives and artists. So that if 21 Dreams wants to put up a mural somewhere, we don't have to wait on somebody to give us a crumb.
Right.
We can fund our own projects.
Awesome.
So
Cooperative
that's the
economics.
next. Absolutely. What you say?
I want to know about it.
Okay. Say it again.
Cooperative economics.
There it is. So that's the next step. We're gonna start funding our own ideas and helping other creatives get started.
Right.
And so that they can be self-sufficient.
And it's a perfect place to do it. I love it because we basically co-opted what traditionally Black lives were a commodity. So they mattered.
They matter.
Right? And so now we're doing the same thing, doing more with less.
That's right.
And creating and stimulating our economy in times of COVID.
Right.
Because if you look at all the activity that was surrounded by the artwork that our wonderful creatives in the community did, I mean, it was the most traffic that we've had since COVID started. So it was beautiful. So in times of civil unrest and where people are upset, we've got people coming together, which I think is what we need to be doing to continue the conversation.
And the power of art too.
Absolutely.
We came around through art but we did something that Black folks don't normally do. We came together. Sure. And we got the job done.
All right, so we're running low on time. I always like to ask people what their top 3 influences are. So this is going to be more specified for Montgomery. Top 3 women influencers from Montgomery.
Aurelia Browder. That's my family right there. Aurelia Browder. Top influencers would be the enslaved African women that built a lot of the buildings downtown, made the bricks. And then I would think thirdly would be Coretta Scott King. She's often left out of the discussion. Simply because her husband had a vision, but she was really the backbone of that family.
Absolutely.
So those would be my top 3.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So before we sign off, I want to make sure that everybody donates to More Than Tours. Let's do that. So tell the audience how they can support you.
Well, right now it's just through the Cash App, but you can go online in the next day on Monday and go ahead and support all of the collective, the artists that were there by purchasing a T-shirt. So you can look that up, Cash App, Michelle Browder, and or morethantours.com.
Okay. Do we have some questions from the audience out there in the interwebs?
We had a question. The question was, what is your influence behind your art? Like, how did you get started with your art?
Y'all don't want to know that for real. I got kicked out of school for 3 days for fighting when I was a kid. Because I didn't know what a nigga was. Can I say that on here?
Well, you said it.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I didn't know what it was. I'm just being honest.
All right.
I didn't know what a nigga was until I moved to Alabama. I didn't understand all of that. And so, I was fighting for my name, my pride. And so my father came home one day, I never will forget, he gave me 10 T-shirts and 8 tubes of paint, and he said, "You will not go to Tutwiler. I will not find you in Tutwiler." And from that day to this one, I've always had my own business. And so one of my influencers is my father and my mother because they kept me out of prison. See, understand? Get that.
That's what you gotta do.
So yeah, y'all asked, so I'm just gonna tell you. That's what it was.
You got any more questions over there, brother?
Let's see. I do not.
Okay.
We got a lot of support. We got how many people we got logged in? We got 16 shares, only about 20 some people. So
We building. We
All
building.
right.
Third episode.
Do
You
that.
are the first woman on our show. So we would not have
How
it
we
any
do
other
this?
way.
How we do that? Right?
Yeah, there you go. So
Appreciate
we again happy to have you. Happy to give you the platform to tell your story.
Thank you.
So we can spread it out. Love to support you and continue to do what you have done. Thank you again, Michelle Browder.
Thank you.
That is going to be a wrap on our show. Thank y'all for watching Under the Influence. Copper shirt starting tomorrow, correct? Tomorrow, Monday,
Yes.
next
Yes.
week. Get your shirt, special edition.
Absolutely.
Support our creatives here locally. We love you. That's a wrap. Under the Influence Live. Appreciate y'all. Claps.
Peace.
So I was expecting you. I was expecting you to say George Gilmore. So I was surprised that you didn't. But
Yeah.
I mean.